Ashley May and Mike Beer here with the Daily Racing Form. Woodbine has a 10-race program this Saturday, and the late double gets kicked off with the Grade 2 Autumn Stakes. Race 9 on their card, a mile and an eighth here on the synthetic for 3-year-olds and upward, and a field of 12 here, Mike, with some familiar names of the past and even horses now that their recent form has been quite strong, such as the 11 in here, Dresden Row.
Yeah, very good form for that horse coming in. Yeah, it's a nice mix. There's some older, hard-hitting horses. You got some young up-and-comers in this race too. The horse that's drawn to the far outside post, Forever Super, maybe is like sort of right in the middle of that demographic. And in some ways, I think he's the horse to beat in here.
You mentioned the outside runner, Forever Super. He's 3-1 on the morning line. You see another horse at 7-2, but outside of that, some really big prices here on the morning line. So a great betting race, a great race to get involved in. We'll take a look at the Time Form US pace projections. As we look at this, expecting a fast pace. We see the number 7, Paramount Prince, in this field. A horse that needs no introduction, was able to win the King's Play last year in front end fashion. But even horses like Never Surprised and maybe War Bomber potentially could be a little bit closer.
Yeah, it feels like we'll see what happens with Paramount Prince, because he has plenty of speed, and they sort of made him work a little bit in his most recent start, and he paid the price there. So we'll see how fast this pace gets. I think a fast pace works against that horse. Maybe Never Surprised. He's a question mark, as far as this surface goes, but he's a fast horse.
He's very fast, was able to almost steal it 3 starts back, and even in those races since then has been quite forward from the gate at the mile and a 16th distance. We'll kick off the field here with the number 1, Artie Storm, who Mike, really long layoff, but I guess it pays off when first race off the bench, the only time we've seen him now in 2024, he was able to get the win.
Yeah, in some ways, I like that about him coming into this race anyway, because they've run him in this race the last 2 years, and it hasn't really worked out. But both years that came after a bit of a long campaign, and so maybe it was just a little bit too much for this horse. They're going to do it differently this year. I don't know if it's by design, and I'm not suggesting it's by design. Maybe there was an issue, but only 1 start so far. It's sprinting, and this horse hasn't sprinted on the all-weather surface in forever. And then he gets in a race that just doesn't have any pace at all, with War Strategy on a loose lead, going slow, and he comes and he closes him down in that race with a 99 buyer. I thought he ran great in that race, and he's got the back class to go with these horses. I don't think the distance is any issue for him. He's 10-1 on the morning line, and he's fresh into this race. I'm using this horse.
Yeah, it was nice too. Last time out, David Moran got back aboard him, a jockey who's ridden him for a vast majority of his career, and him being a 6-year-old, you talked about it. Last time you saw him sprinting, we're talking 7/8 back in July of 2021. Obviously, we typically see that right with horses at the beginning of their career. So nice to see him adjust last time out. And you talked about it, got a really sharp figure for that effort. The number 2, Tosin Wish, in here for Mark Casse. Maybe a little bit of a wild card, just has that 1 race at Woodbine. It was last time out. It was a winning one. It was a turf race, and now he's going to get back onto the synthetic, but he has experience overseas over this sort of surface.
Yeah, I think that will give you a little confidence as far as the surface switch goes, because he ran really well on the all-weather overseas. So I'm not going to worry about the surface switch. This horse showed up at Saratoga in September off of a little bit of a layup. To me, it just felt like a race that they were going to give him there. They were not aggressive with this horse at all. Didn't go for a run around the final turn, just sort of kept him over behind horses. And then through the stretch, he just didn't really have that much of a finish. I sort of felt like he needed that race. They shipped him up here. They put Lasix on him. And I know it was only an allowance race, but I just thought, and you can tell me what you think about that effort, Ashley, if you took a close look at it. I thought he ran great in there. Trailing, the pace wasn't huge in front of him. He came with a big finish in there to close that race down. I don't know. I feel like he's really, really interested in here at a price. I think he's underrated.
Yeah, and he's interesting too, knowing that last time out, just a different ball game, a mile on the turf. It was on the inner, and now he's going to have to stretch out a little bit and get the surface switch. But I agree with you. I thought all in all, he raced beautifully last time out. And yes, he's going to get tested here a little bit for class. But I think if you're looking for a price 20-1, he's certainly a horse to at least use underneath. And maybe that's also the case here with another horse, the 3, Wicked Django, in here, who I know he's a big price on the morning line, and he's not necessarily a win horse, but when I look at him, he's getting blinkers on. But it's not even that. It's you go back to some of his races earlier this year, still facing the likes of a lot of these horses, and he just tends to stick around for at least a piece.
Yeah, I agree. I'll be honest. I would have liked to have seen him get it done in one of these recent races, especially when they dropped him in class for that race 2 starts back.
Right.
But going to some of those races earlier on in the summer when Paramount Prince beat him, I mean, he's just sitting rating at the back of the pack behind really slow paces. And I thought he ran really well in the Dominion Day and the Seagram Cup. and just didn't really have a fair chance the way those races set up for him. So is he underrated? I think he's probably a little underrated. I do wish he had maybe gotten the job done in one of those races since then, and I'm not sure that I love blinkers going on him.
Yeah, I'm curious too to know if that last work was he wearing blinkers. He's not necessarily a fast workhorse. He
Good
seemed to
point.
wake up, but you can see switches barns here. Maybe they're trying something new. Why not take a shot? Another horse, though, trying something new, not equipment wise, but surface wise, would be the Force or London. Graham Motion shipping a couple horses up to Woodbine this weekend. One that I think, in my opinion, is going to get tested for class here and needs to stretch back out in distance. Not sure how that's going to play for him.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not sure either. I didn't. I don't really know what to do with this horse. He's obviously been a big disappointment. They paid a lot of money for him, and he turned out just to not be that good. And his recent turf form is okay, and maybe it's trending in the right direction. Actually, I still don't think it really makes him that much of a contender in here. But we'll see how he does. Surface switch for a really good trainer. He'll probably be a fair price if you like him. I didn't like him, but maybe he'll just really improve with the surface switch.
The 5 Stanley House, I joked about it earlier. My 2023 plate pick is in this spot, and we'll take a look at his most recent performance. It was a pretty short field in the Durham Cup, just 5 in total, and he ends up finishing 3rd in here. I just think when you look at how the race unfolded, I don't know what to make of this effort. Dresden Rowe had a little bit of a jump on him. He was even, but he's a horse, again, a very consistent type.
Yeah, oh yeah, he's very consistent. He shows up and he runs. It kind of seems like he runs this race every single time. He's got to find a way, I guess, to break through here and get a little faster. I do think he's tactical enough to get in the right kind of a trip. He's another horse who was sort of wired by Paramount Prince in those races over the summer, the group races over the summer, but he was right up close to slow paces both times and just couldn't make any inroads in those races.
That's kind of when I said even. It doesn't necessarily look even, but I feel like he just takes off and he doesn't continue to pick up. I mean, he just
Yeah.
has kind of one run, and whether he gets a bigger share is a different story. And for him, the only time that he's been able to get a win was fresh off the bench this year, and obviously faced lesser competition in that race back on May 17th. He's 12-1 on the morning line. The 6 War Bomber, similar to Artie Storm, a tough knocking horse who's seen it all. We'll take a look at one of his more recent performances. And for the case for him, his last 2, regardless of surface, he's had to face the winner in both of these. Patches O'Houlihan, who's been a really fun horse to watch, a very quick horse. When you look at the New Arctic and his performance, I think he sort of showed what he has in the past. He closes from off of it typically in this sort of turf race, and he's 3rd best.
Yeah, he didn't. He's okay in this race, but there's never a point where it looks like he's going to win this race. And he'll just get up first. But it was a good field, and he ran fine in here. But it's not like it was a super compelling performance. I feel like he's a really good horse, and he can be more forward as they stretch him back out here. I think that, to me, the big question with him has always been distance. I'm not really sure that he really wants 9 furlongs.
No, and in the mile, I mean, it almost worked out for him 3 back in the King
Yeah.
Edward, but mile and an eighth maybe is pushing it for him. The 7 Paramount Prince, he was the plate winner last year, front end fashion, and since then we've seen him in the winner's circle a couple of times. Mike, 2 starts back, a decisive winner, but I don't want to say he's a need the lead type, but I mean that's pretty much what we've seen in terms of tactics to this point.
Yeah, exactly. That to me he's one of the tougher calls in the race because I do think he's talented. But the wins 2 and 3 back. I mean, you can go back and watch the replays of those. I mean, he's absolutely loose on slow paces. They just let him go in there. Nobody went and challenged him. And to me, he just really took advantage. Last time they actually made him race a little bit early. He did make the lead, but they sort of forced him up the backstretch, and he paid the price there. He did not run well last time. I know it was off of a little bit of a layoff, but still, I just thought he was disappointing. I don't trust him to beat this field if they're going to make him work a little bit in the early stages of the race. And I think they will make him work early in here. And he's just, to me, it's not worth taking 7-2 on the morning line.
Well, it's a big thing. You know, if he was a price, that's different, but you
Yeah.
never get him at a price because of his resume and what he's been able to do, and that he can be, I guess, lethal on the front end. But you said it best: 49-2 to the half, 3 back, and 48-4, 2 starts back. He gets a compact field last time out, and I'm always of the opinion when you see a compact field, that's where you see race riding. People make decisions. You're not going to get the same sort of race to unfold if you have a field of 14 quality runners. 5 is very different. So they got the best of him last time. And as you mentioned, he's 7-2 in here. The 8, Lamakaza in here for Julia Carey, was 6th last time out in the Singsfield, but prior to that was able to win at 1.25 miles. I mean, distance, I mean, this horse wants to run all day long, but the question is, cutting back to 1.125 miles, how effective can he be?
Yeah, to me, the distance is the least of my concerns, and he does handle the surface too. So you don't worry about that. To me, it's just a question of whether you think he classes up with some better horses, because these are better horses, and he's just got to prove that he can go with them. He'll be a really, really nice price if you like him.
The 9, never surprising here for Kevin Attard, was able to win decisively last time out, going a mile and a 16th on the turf course. One, though, that's going to try the turf, not the turf, the synthetic for the first time. But this is a 6-year-old. He's raced 17 times, and you can see only on the grass.
Yeah, only on turf. We'll see. I know we sort of talked about this a little bit in one of the prior races, actually, where I think some people believe that, the surfaces, the all weather and the turf are sort of interchangeable, and horses that handle one handle the other. That's not a take that I agree with. But we'll just see if this horse handles it, because I think it's pretty clear that if he handles it, he's a contender in here. And I do feel like if he wants to lead, it's his. So we'll see how they decide to play it. I'm going to be honest. I've never been a fan of this horse. This horse had really good form on the go back early on in his career when Pletcher had him as a turf horse. I mean, just running nothing but fast races and winning stakes races. And I never liked him right along, even while he was in really good form. I'm not betting him now, but I'm very interested to see how he runs.
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point about the surface switch, right? I think sometimes, sure, maybe if you see dirt horses and you see some synthetic horses, you think it might be easier for the synthetic runners to handle the turf. And maybe that's generally true, but it also depends on the synthetic surface. How they play can be drastically different. You see it at Woodbine, you see it at Gulfstream Park. Sometimes speed holds, sometimes it doesn't. I think that's all a factor in it as well. The 10 bails us out. Another one in here for Kevin Attard. I think out of his chances, this is maybe a sneaky horse. I thought, looking at the Ontario Derby last time out, this horse was racing really well. First time tackling stakes competition, and was a little bit closer to the pace and still closing. And obviously a mile and an eighth, not a concern with this 3-year-old.
Yeah, I agree with you. I feel like the more I looked at that last race too, I just feel like that whole pace scenario didn't really work out for him, because I even feel like his rider knew that he needed to try to stay within range in there, and he was asking this horse to do it, but I just don't think that's his running style. And so he sort of got shuffled back around the final turn. But once he got out into the clear through the stretch, this horse really ran. He didn't change his leads in the stretch, but he really ran at the end of that race. He's in good form right now. He's obviously got something to prove, and these are way better horses. But he's a little interested in here at a price.
I think too, you mentioned it. It seemed like his rider wanted to put him in, because she did really want him to be there, because he was right there with Dresden Rowe after a couple of jumps, and then Dresden Rowe is sitting in second throughout and gets the job done. So agree with your assessment there. 3-year-old too, going to face older horses. He's done it in the past as you go down the page, but different level of competition. Mentioned the name already, the 11, Dresden Rowe. We talked about it when kind of looking at horses in the slate for this race. I mean, this is a horse that's been consistent for a long time, but his form, I feel like in his last 2, he's been right there, spot on.
Yeah, his last 2 races are good. He got a good trip too back when he defeated a few of these same horses there. That was the race where they sort of made the favorite work on the early lead. This horse was in a perfect position and he got the job done. Thought he ran really well last time too. He got caught a little wide around the first turn going forward, but after that he was in a perfect trip. And managed to stave off Ballas out at the end of that race. He's in good form right now. I'm not knocking this horse, and if he's around that 8-1, that seems perfectly fair to me. We'll see how they decide to bet this stuff.
I've been a huge fan of the 12 Forever Super, a horse that's just been consistent now throughout his career. A 5-year-old, a 9-time winner, 5 of those wins this year. He's been able to get back onto the synthetic in his last 2 at Presque Isle, and he's won them both, and I think the trip has worked out beautifully for him, but more compact fields and has more of an outside draw in here.
Yeah, we'll see if the outside post affects him at all. You're right; he's gotten 2 really good trips in those last 2 races, but that's because that's who this horse is. He, even on the turf, in the turf races, he just puts himself into position. He's very tactical, very handy. Last time the pace was pretty slow, so they just sat right on top of it and got the job done. 2 starts back, he just settled. They went faster early. He just sat off it, no problem, walked right up on him on the turn and won easily. Again, I mean, the outside post could be a concern. I feel like with his running style, it's really not. He'll be able to overcome it. And I personally feel like he's the horse to beat in here.
All right, so top pick time here in the Grade 2 Autumn. You mentioned the 12 Forever Super, the horse to beat. You're going to try to beat him in here with a 20-1 shot, the number 2, Toes and Wish, who really nice win last time out.
Yeah, I just really liked his last race. I think it was a real move forward for him with Lasix on for the first time, and of course he gets to keep his Lasix up here at Woodbine. And I don't think stretching out's going to affect him. He's run well on the all-weather surface before. I just feel like at a price he's worth taking a shot with in here. I got Forever Super second. Again, I think he's the horse to beat.
Yeah, and you can see I use some of the shorter prices on the morning line underneath. The 7 Paramount Prince for second, Forever Super for fourth. And I mentioned big fan of his, but I also took a shot in here with a bigger price. Going to go to the 10, bails us out. Not as good of a price as your horse on the morning line, but 15-1. He's got some things to prove. He's a lightly raced 3-year-old, but I just felt like last time out he ran very well. I do feel like he's a horse that might like the synthetic a little bit better. But with that said, I mean, his turf effort 2 back was fine, but I liked him getting against graded stakes competition for the first time last time out, and hopefully he can take a little bit of a step forward here.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That's actually a good point that you bring up too about the surface, because it's not one that I considered until you just said it, because he did run really well on turf 2 back, but really his 2 all-weather races are probably the 2 best races he's run to this point.
Yeah, so we'll see. We're going to go for upsets here in the grade 2 autumn. 2-12-1-6 for Mike, 10-7-11-12 for me. It's race 9 on their 10-race program this Saturday. Best of luck.
Hey buddy, you look like you're in need of a winner, and just remember, if you like and subscribe right over here, you can get all of the great content on DRF.com, including Race of the Day, stakes previews, and lots more, featuring me and my superb selections. Trust me, you're not going to regret it.